Pretty impressed. Okay, so here we are. I got the ring gear all cleaned up. All the old Loctite cleaned out of the threads of the gear and the bolts. And then new Loctite torqued down. The fit of the ring gear was super nice. Nice, tight, slip fit. There's like a little register right here that the inside of the ring gear fits on. And had a nice good fit. It wasn't it didn't take heat or press or anything, and it didn't just fall on. It just had a nice slip fit. So it's a nice little confirmation of quality right there, because those tolerances are so tight to get a nice slip fit like that. It's not easy to do. So here's a look at the other side. Oh, sorry about that. So I pulled the these pins, just drop in the case, and the coupler downside spring loaded. So I pulled these out so I didn't lose them. Had it upside down with the ring gear situation, but so right now I'm waiting for new carrier bearings. So this is as far as I can go right now, unfortunately, but I will catch back up when I got new bearings. Okay, so I got the bearings installed on the carrier, and then I just finished drilling and tapping in this one's case. This is the pass-through for the wire. It's a M12 by 1.5 thread. That's for this little guy. Usually these are called a cord grip, so it's like a rubber compression fitting. So this O-ring seals against the 90 weight coming out. I'm also going to put some thread sealer on, just because this isn't a perfectly flat surface. And then you tighten this outer nut, it compresses a rubber piece in there around the wire here. The cool thing, these are reusable, so if you ever have to take this apart again, you can loosen this up and the cord will slide back out. As long as you don't go crazy tightening these, the rubber piece usually holds up pretty good to be used repeatedly. So I'm gonna get this installed on one more thing. On one of the carrier caps, you have to relieve the sides of it. I'll show this in better detail once I get the carrier set in here. But basically these fingers rest on top of the saddles that are built into the carrier, or I'm sorry, the third member case, but they need to fit alongside of these. And again, these fingers keep the magnet from rotating, because the magnet needs to stay stationary in the case, obviously, so it doesn't rip out the wires. And then that's just how this thing works. It needs to be stationary so they can put drag on these cam plates, like I showed before. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording and then get this stuff put together, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've got that fitting installed that I was talking about for the wiring. One thing that I'm not super happy with, and it's not the locker's fault, it's just the style diff. As you can see, this is the oil passage for the front pinion bearing, or the outer pinion bearing. As the ring gear rotates, it throws oil into that hole to lubricate that front bearing. This guy is kind of in that path, and I think you would be in better shape the farther you could get this away from that oil path. But being that this is a sidekick, I'm going to go under the bench. Being that this is a sidekick differential, it has these cast-in mounting points for the upper wishbone on a sidekick. So this was pretty much the only place I could put it. Again, I put a high-quality thread sealer on these threads, and then it should be fine. But, you know, because little details like this make a big difference, so it's just good to pay attention to stuff like that. I'm going to get this carrier dropped in, and then I'll come back. Okay, so here I am. I'm just about done. Here you can see a little better those fingers on the electromagnet. They basically rest on the case right here, and then you gotta just relieve the cap just a little bit for that to slip by. Same thing on this side. I ground just the minimum possible, because this does get pretty thin close to the hole, so you don't, the last thing you'd want is to break through into the bolt hole. So yeah, basically set it back up. I have an 8 thousandths backlash. I think on these, off the top of my head, they're like 6 to 12 or something, but 8 is where I was before, so I'm putting it back to the same spot. Yeah, just got done getting that all set. So what I usually do now is we'll pull one bolt at a time from the caps, pull it out, Loctite it, put it back in to get those all Loctited. That way you're not kind of rushing the Loctite drying while you're playing with this, because sometimes this can be a pain to get this all just right. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and Loctite the bolts. Put the little lock fingers or whatever you call those in place, and then I will get a jumper wire and show you how to test this. Be right back. Okay, now I'm gonna test this thing. So I've got a power probe hooked up. I've got a little jumper lead for the positive side, and then the negative wire on the power probe is hooked to the black wire on the electromagnet. And so I've got lines drawn on the axle shafts that are stuck in this thing. So now you can see right now, they move opposite directions. The differential's open. Now if I give it power and rotate the diff, you can see the cam plates separate. And now, oops, don't have quite enough hands to do all this. Now the axles are locked together. I can't easily turn them because I have to rotate all the ring and pinion as well, but you take power off, rotate the other way, let things relax. The axles are open again. Pretty cool unit. Pretty easy to test. You really don't need the axles either. You can just turn the ring and pinion. With zero power, cam plates run tight to each other, and as you give it power, drag is put on this one, and it forces them to separate, which pushes in the pins, pushes in the coupler inside. Take power off, cam plates go back together. Give it power, it locks, power off, they slide back together. Pretty cool. So now that I know that it works, I'm gonna get it put back in the front end. Okay, so one more thing I need to mention is this thing, when these get clearanced, you don't want this tight. It needs a little bit of freedom of movement. Not a lot, just a little bit, just so it's not cocked or whatever. It just needs to be able to move a little bit so things can move freely on their own. This, under the magnet, there's a bearing, but still, like, as long as you know this has got a little wiggle, it can kind of self-center itself on its bearing and not be bound up. That's something to watch for. Okay, so I got the Samurai all put back together. I didn't want to bore you with any of the just normal axle assembly. But so what I got next is the wiring, which is actually very simple. So it's got a pre-made harness, hooks to the battery, and then to the switch. Got a built-in inline fuse. And then this is the connector I've got to install on the wires coming out of the diff itself. Sort of like a weather pack style connector. And then it's got a Carling style switch. I'm probably gonna use this temporarily, but in my Samurai I have a Switch Pro switch panel. I'm gonna do some rearranging. That lower right, it says siren. I'm gonna get rid of that because I really don't need that button. The siren controller has its own power, so when I wired this, I wasn't really thinking about the right way of doing it, I guess. So I'm going to change that out and use that as my front locker button. And then hopefully I'll be getting one for the rear, and I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do. So who knows, maybe I end up using the Carling switches after all. I'm not sure. I haven't even scouted around for a good spot over there. But I'll use it temporarily. So here's the pigtail coming out of the diff. So I've got to install the connector onto this, and then I'm going to make these wires follow zip tied my upper link, and then right up above here is kind of my main harness trunk, so it'll go up there and into the interior. So I'll catch you up when I get that all set up. Okay, so I'm going to do like a dry run, I guess, test. So I got the wiring hooked up and all the front ends put together, and so right now the switch is off. You can see I've got one tire on the ground. This one's in the air. You can see I got basically one tire fire going on right here. And then again, my wiring's temporary, so I'm just testing this, but turn this on. And then then it locks. And now I can't turn the tire because it's locked together with that tire. And turn switch off. Free again. Very sweet. Can't wait to use this. Lock. And it connected. Solid. Alright, I'm going to try to figure out some way of testing this in my yard and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I tried to take this out in the yard, or I have kind of a bank in my front yard. Tried to flex it up and get a open and versus locked little comparison video on the video, but it's dry out, and with it being locked in the back, it just goes right up the thing in two-wheel drive. I couldn't get to spin a tire, so I am going to be doing a little more maintenance work on it and taking it out soon, so I'll post up a separate video showing the locker in use and the difference between open and fully locked. I live in the Northwest, and so we have Brown's Camp. It's kind of a good little off-road area with pretty good rock trail called Crushers. So I'm kind of itching to go hit that. And so I'll post up a separate video of that. And thanks for watching. If you have any questions on these lockers, hit me up in the comments. Like I said, so far with the install and just the quality of the components, I'm stoked. I think it's going to be an awesome upgrade. And I will post up a video of it being used, and if I have any issues or, you know, whatever conclusion I come to, I will share. Thanks for watching.